All right. So welcome to our preeminent and our premier workshop for our Magic members. So excited to have you guys here. This is it's wonderful to finally see you guys joining with us. Um, and tonight, what I wanted to cover was the primary question that I'm always getting is, how do I connect with my spirit guides? How do I know my spirit guides are really my guides, really spirit, and it's not my imagination? What are some of the things that I can do? What are some of the exercises that I can do? What are ways that I can kind of make this more tangible to myself? Um, and that's something I hear all the time. So I figured, that's probably one of the best things to do for the inaugural kickoff, as it were. So I put together some slides. So I thought we'd kind of go through some of these as a sort of like a slide presentation, and we'll talk about each one as we kind of go through it. So I'm just going to start off by sharing my screen. And let's share it, and you guys tell me if you can see the screen.
I can
Oh,
see
yeah.
it.
Perfect. Okay. So, what we're going to be talking about tonight is, 10 different ways that you can connect with your spirit guides. And one of the first ways that you can do that is just number one, get into the habit of asking for them. Get into the habit of just saying, hey, if you're around, I want to connect with you. You just got to get into that habit of saying, of communicating with them, talking with them, starting to say, hey, I want to develop a relationship with you. I want to get to know you. I want to get closer to you. Because if you're doing that, then you're reaching out to them and they will respond. So put together kind of a list of some things that maybe you'd like to have some help with, or some questions that you've got, or some issues that you want resolved, things that you would like to communicate with them. Like, let's say, for example, as if you were going to go to this profound wisdom giver, or a man in the Hindu Kush, or maybe a grandparent or something. Same idea. You wouldn't go there with a blank mind. You'd go there with a list of questions, right? So the same idea. And when you're doing that, go there with a sense of love. Go there with this communication, with a sense of love, reverence, purpose, and only for the highest good, because that sends out the signal of an attraction that brings your guides and people in spirit to you in the highest vibration, which is always the best thing to do. So that's probably one of the first things to get the ball rolling, as it were. And the second thing you can do is, after you've started asking on these questions, after you started to reach out the spirit, after you've started to try to this communication, is basically sit back and start to listen all day long. Just kind of at least be aware, keep one ear out, and be aware of things that you hear, notice, sense, feel. uh, the biggest takeaway is always going to be, it's really going to be subtle. It's going to be so subtle that it's going to be in the back of your mind, uh, so subtle that you're probably going to ignore it. But just keep on listening. And some of the best ways to listen are when you're in meditation. And, of course, there are a whole number of different types of meditation. But when you're meditating, especially in silence, there's a special meditation called sitting in the silence, where you're focusing on just an image, or just your breathing, or just the sound of the fan or something. You're literally doing nothing but focusing on the silence. And as you start to focus on that one image and that one sound, that one mantra maybe that you're holding, you'll start to notice that other ideas start to pop into your mind out of the blue that do not connect with what you've been thinking. If they're coming from out of the blue, things that do not connect with your prior line of thinking, then you know it's your guides, because it's not connected to anything you were thinking whatsoever. So kind of think about that way. Another thing to do is, every day you want to try to write to your highest self. Write in your journal. Have a special journal, notebook, diary, whatever, and write yourself, your highest self, a question, whether that's how do I connect? How do I become more spiritual? How do I become a better parent? How do I send out more love? Whatever the question is, right? Write that question at the top of the page and then just kind of meditate on it, close your eyes, and just start thinking and write it. Don't think, just write whatever comes to your mind first. Let your hand do the walking, right? Let your hand write by itself, as it were. Don't think about what's coming through. In the beginning, you may think, okay, well, this is my voice. This is me. I can clearly tell that's me. That's the way I talk. That's okay, because in the beginning, it's probably going to be mostly you. But you'll notice over time, the voice tonality is going to start to slowly change as you go back over the words and you go back over prior pages. You'll start to notice that the words and the tone of voice in these responses starts to slowly change till the time you're a couple of quarters in. You're like, that's not me. That's not the way I talk. Oh my gosh, that's somebody else. It could be your higher self. It could be your guide. It could be a loved one. It could be the beginning of automatic writing, where spirit just really starts to influence how your mind is working, how your hand is working, how your writing is working. And the more practice you get at it, and the more practice you allow yourself just to kind of flow, get into the flow, you'll start to notice that they're going to start working through you. They're going to start writing through you. They're going to start speaking through your hand. And that's actually a really cool thing to do. So start practicing with that. And it's actually really kind of fun. It's actually a lot easier to do automatic writing than it is to do trance speaking, because you're just there and you're just letting it go and you're just flying. You're not worrying about, okay, am I speaking? You're just writing. And you know how we're always influenced by the thought or influenced by that outside feeling. That's what it is. It's that spark. A fourth thing that you can do is just ask your guides for a sign. Now everybody says, "Oh, well, I've tried that before and I haven't gotten anything." Well, ask for something really crazy. There's a famous story of a woman once who was really skeptical, and somebody was saying, "Oh yeah, you got to try to reach out to your spirit guides." So ask for something really bizarre. Ask for like a pink elephant, and that'll really kind of prove it to you. Then the woman's like, "Pink elephant, that just ain't gonna happen." But the mentor was saying, "Do it, do it, do it." So she's like, "Okay, fine. I'll ask for the pink elephant." She's in her office. She asks for a pink elephant, and just kind of goes and shrugs her shoulders and go, "Hey, if you show me a pink elephant, I'll believe. But otherwise, forget it. You don't exist." She forgets all about it. Goes home, comes back the next morning, turns on her computer. The first thing she sees on her computer whoop, is an image of a pink elephant. It's like, she's like, wait a second, why is a pink elephant on my computer screen the first thing I see when I turn it on? So she immediately was like, okay, you got me now. So it's little things like that. I mean, some people ask for like pink feathers or white feathers or whatever it is, but expect that something's going to surprise you. I can remember doing that once when I was really very skeptical, still am, but when I was really skeptical in my very materialistic self. And I remember being in the office and just kind of going, okay, guys, if you're around, just, show me a white feather in a place I would never expect to see it. And I'm walking into the garage, in my building. And sure enough, there's this white feather in the seat of my car. I'm like, how'd that get there? It can't get there. So yeah, that was one of those crazy things that kind of got my attention. So eventually you'll find things that really start to get your attention. And speaking of attention, number 5 is just basically start to pay attention to some of these feelings and guidance that you start to get. right? Because you're going to start to get these things. I mentioned earlier that spirit is very, very subtle because there's a universal law that states spirit cannot interfere with our free will. They can only give us advice. And it's up to us to choose to take the advice or ignore it. So the communication has to be so subtle that it can't influence us in any way. So the communication is going to be really, really, really subtle. That's why we can barely hear it. It's up to us to kind of reach for it, right? Spirit's an advisor. They just kind of give us neutral information. And as a result, communication is really easy to ignore. So try to pay attention to it. Always be thinking about it. Always be looking out for it. Always be seeking it, right? So that's something to to pay attention to. And a sixth item here is gratitude. This is a big one. Always stay in the energy of gratitude because gratitude is it's an energy. It's a vibration. If you're in the energy of gratitude, it starts to raise your vibration. You're raising your oscillation rate, and as a result, what winds up happening is you're coming closer and closer and closer to spirit, who's trying to come closer to you, and eventually you meet in the middle, and that's where you start getting these beautiful connections, beautiful communications. And another thing that gratitude helps you with is your positivity and your feeling of happiness. Because a lot of people say, okay, well, I will be grateful for when I'm happy. But in fact, it's the other way around. When you're happy is only when you have something to be grateful for. Like, I'm grateful that I have shoes on my feet. I'm grateful that I have food on the table. I'm grateful that I have a roof over my head. I mean, the tiniest of little things. When you start to feel this sense of gratitude, even for the smallest things, I'm grateful for that hot cup of coffee in the morning, you can't help but smile. You can't help but go, wow, I feel great. So that's something to think about, right? So really focus on the gratitude. And one of the biggest things you can think of, this might have actually been the first, but I put it as seventh, is all about trust and surrender. This is perhaps the most critical phrase if you're going down a mediumship training, for example. That's like the most key phrase you'll ever encounter is trust and surrender. You basically got to release the ego mind, let the ego mind go to the side, trust that what you're receiving is accurate because spirit is always accurate, and then just surrender to whatever you're getting. Don't analyze it. Don't say, okay, well, is this really me? Is this my mind? That can't be right. That doesn't seem right. Because guess who's saying that? That's your ego mind, right? Your ego mind always wants to control, always wants to make sure that it's on top. That's just the way the ego mind works. So you got to push your ego mind to the side, allow it just to be quiet, release the desire to control, and then just start to feel that everything that you're receiving is trustworthy, that you are trusting what you're receiving is accurate, and that you are surrendering to everything that you're getting. And this kind of goes back, this number 8 is very similar to the concept of gratitude, but it's a twist on that. You want to be focused on the joy in your life. You want to be the inner child because think of all children. All children are nothing but pure bundles of joy. All they know is the concept of fun, joy, happiness, playtime. That's their life. Not focus on really any responsibilities, burdens. It's playtime and it's pure joy, right? And that's the inner child in all of us. It just happened to get all these layers of adulthood over the years, kind of like the ring of a tree, that eventually this little sapling that's on the inside got, swallowed up by all these layers and layers and layers and years and years and years of adulthood. So go back to being that inner child. Focus on the joy. Focus on the joy in life, and don't allow yourself to be limited anymore. Start to feel the joy. When you start to feel the joy, all of a sudden you'll feel the chains just break off, and you're just like this wonderful sensation of almost like floating. Another way that you can connect with your guides is just to start attempting to get some form of identification. To say, hey guys, can you give me a name? Can you give me something that I can at least identify you with? Whatever method you want to use, just get something that you can identify the guides with. In the beginning, you may get something really mundane, really ordinary. That's all right. You're expected to get something really ordinary, because if you got something really crazy and bizarre, you probably couldn't handle it. You probably wouldn't accept it. You probably would think that's not right. That's just my imagination. So what you wind up getting is something like one or two syllable name like Fred. I remember the first time I talked to my guides, I said, please give me a name. The first name that popped out of the blue before I could even finish the question was Fred. I'm like, I'm sorry, Frank. I'm like, seriously? You're giving me the name Frank? And it's like, I was like, that made me more incredulous than anything. And I tried again, and I got somebody else coming in named Sarah. Uh, but at least I was able to recognize the energy, because when I kept on communicating with this identity referred to as Fred, the energy was always the same. The personality was always the same. So I started recognizing a consistency with the same person that kept on coming in over and over and over and over again. Same energy, same personality, same communication. I'm like, oh, okay, that's that guy who's calling himself Fred. I can deal with that. That's okay. But at least it was an identification. It was a place to start. Eventually, as you start to get to know your guide better and better and better and better, you might start to get a realization that this person is actually more than just Fred, because the guy is going to give you something that only until down the road, when they feel that you're able to handle their true name, only then are they going to reveal who they truly are. And there are many stories of automatic writings where guides came through that said, I'm not going to give you my real name because you wouldn't believe who I am. And so they gave some pseudonym. One of the more famous ones is Silver Birch. You've probably heard of Silver Birch, one of the more famous spirit guides. The way he got his name was when the circle was asking him what his name is. He said, okay, go look outside the window and you tell me what you see. What's the first thing you see? And they all looked out the window, and sure enough, they saw a series of birch trees, and specifically a silver birch. They're like, oh, we see a silver birch tree. And he goes, there you go. There's my name. And it stuck. So that's kind of the way that it works. So it's however you can identify them, right? That's the big thing. And number 10, we all have psychic abilities. They're just lying dormant beneath the surface. It's not like you're born, we're all made. The thing is that we all have these abilities. I mean, look no farther than your gut instinct. What's your gut instinct? Clairsentience, right? Your gut. That's literally your clairsentience. That's at work all the time, but we don't even realize that that's one of the clairs. So we all have this. It's just we used to use them in top of mind when we didn't have any communication hundreds of thousands of years ago. But over time, when our forebrain grew, we no longer needed those non-physical abilities, because we had physical senses and we could talk, and our forebrain grew so much that that became the dominant aspect. Now they're just sitting there dormant because we don't use them. It's like the old saying, use it or lose it, right? Now, there are 4 specific exercises that you can use to connect with your guides. And perhaps when we meet again in 3 weeks, I think, we can kind of go over these specific exercises in more detail. In fact, we can practice some of them, but I just kind of wanted to list them here. One of the first things that you can do is, number 1, see yourself walking into some special room, a room that's unique to you, a room that you feel is really comfortable, has everything in there that you like. Maybe it's wood paneling, maybe it's covered in art, maybe it's painted a certain way, maybe it's got certain furniture, whatever it is that you like, right? It's your special room. See your favorite room invite your guide to meet you in that room. Maybe you're in your favorite chair. Maybe it's a certain armchair. Have another armchair or sitting across from you. Invite your guide to come through a giant window and sit in that chair. And then when you do that, inevitably what you're going to wind up experiencing is something like at some point you'll notice an energy start to come into the room and reside either in the chair or near the chair, and just know that they're there. That's the beginning. You'll just start to experience it. You may not hear anything, you may not have a direct communication, but you may suddenly become aware. Maybe you keep on practicing that, and maybe it starts to develop. Maybe you start having a communication. Maybe you start to see them. All kinds of things. But that's one method you can do it. Another very similar method is see yourself sitting on a bench underneath a tree in the shade of a warm, sunny day, right? Maybe you're walking on this beautiful gravel path that kind of winds around to the side of a house, and you sit on this really comfortable bench under the shade of a big oak tree or something, right? And you're sitting on one side of the bench, and you invite your guide to, join you on the other side of the bench. Same concept. Just start to feel that there's an energy that draws close to you, either on the bench or near the bench, and you can start to see them coming from a mile away. And that's something that's really interesting. Again, very, very similar to that is, again, these are all visions, right? These are all visualizations. Imagine yourself in a garden, very special garden, full of bushes and flowers of all different colors and shapes and sizes. Just your special garden, whatever it is that's unique to you, that makes you feel fantastic, right? Find yourself in this awesome chair outside, and you're just so comfortable and like, oh, this is my special place, right? And see yourself sitting in that chair, and likewise have a chair sitting opposite you. And again, invite your guide, into your space. See the guide, see the energy, see the ball of light coming close to you. Maybe you feel it, and what have you. And so, using all of these different techniques, one of the things that you should be doing is asking your guides to blend with you, asking them to step into your energy space, your aura, right? We know that our aura extends out upwards of 7 or 8 feet. That's just our energy space. So when you feel your guides or your special loved ones in spirit begin to blend with you, you'll start to feel maybe a tingle, maybe an energy blanket, maybe a temperature change, maybe a special feeling, a shift in the energy as they begin to blend with you and your energy and your aura and your energetic space. So you ask them to blend with your energy, and after you sense that, just focus on the shift of the energy. You're like, oh yes, all of a sudden I feel that energy. You'll know it when it happens, because you'll be sitting there with no energy, no feeling, and then all of a sudden maybe you get one of those sensations, like I said, temperature, energy, a physical hand feeling, maybe a brush of wind or something. You'll start to feel something change. After you feel that, say, awesome, that was great. Now ask your guide to step back. Feel the energy remove as they stop blending with you. And you'll start to notice that all of a sudden the energy drops, the energy stops, the blending stops. So you'll start to notice this shift in the energy. Ask them to step back into it again, and then step back out. So then you'll start to recognize what it feels like when your guides start to blend with you and step into your aura. Another trick that you can do is you can ask specific types of guides to come in and blend with you. Maybe you want to, connect with your healer guide. Maybe your healer guide has a certain energy type. Maybe your main guide has a different energy type. Maybe your protector guide has a separate energy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So you can ask different guides to come in, and each guide is going to have their own signature energy feeling, so that you'll recognize who they are and where they are. Maybe, for me, for example, I know whenever my guys are around me, I'll feel this like energetic blanket wrap around me and my upper arms all of a sudden start to tingle like these tiny little champagne like bubbles all up and down my upper arms. And it's kind of like somebody's wrapped me in um, electrical tape, and like my upper arms and upper body just like starts to, fill with bubbles and tingles. I'm like, oh my God, there they are. And I can just feel them. And that's just one thing where I know they're with me. Sometimes I'll literally feel like a hand on my right shoulder. I'll sometimes either feel them on my shoulder or feel them, and then in my mind's eye, see their hand and their arm on my shoulder. So you can start to really begin to connect with it. So just notice the difference in the energy. So that was really kind of everything that I wanted to touch on. So I kind of hope that was something that was useful to help you learn some of the connections and some of the ways that perhaps there's a differentiation between your guides and your mind, because your mind, like I said, it's going to be a string of your energy, of your own mental thoughts, whereas a spirit guide is going to be out of the blue, just dropping in like somebody's like dropping a pebble in a pond. You're like, whoa, where'd that come from? So, any questions on that? There's a lot there.
No, I mean, you pretty much for me, you pretty much confirmed everything that I already knew, which made me feel so much better because I think I can't speak for anybody else. This is like an amazing thing that can happen, but it feels overwhelming sometimes because you feel kind of loony, you know that this is happening. You can't really, I have an amazing group of friends and family, right? But how do you explain to even your best friends that this is happening, even though they're super supportive? So hearing you, it's like, oh my God, okay, this is me, this is me, this is me. So for me, it's comforting.
Yeah, and it kind of these methods of connecting are very consistent for so many people in general, but also so many people, so many mediums and who are connecting with spirit all the time. Like these are the ways that we're always connecting, and it's so consistent for us, and so we can kind of share that with everybody else. And say, yeah, now this is how you can literally go out there and reach. It's not that you don't have to like sit in meditation for 20 years in the Himalayan mountains and then come off the Hindu Kush and go, eureka. No, it's not that tough.
Yeah, it's true.
Dawn, how about you? Any questions on any of the material?
No, I really enjoy it. I meditate daily. I feel my spirit guides. I know they're with me, but I just don't feel the communication. I don't know, maybe my can't be quiet enough. I've been working real hard on it. I got rituals. I'm daily, do them every day. It's like an
Okay.
hour and a half I spend doing my thing, and I love it. I cannot go a day without it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, because that's one of the big things is consistency. Consistency is far more important than duration. You could be sitting in meditation for, 10 or 15 minutes. That's great, so long as you're doing it every day. So whether it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or an hour and a half, as long as you're doing it every day, that's what's important, because you're getting your monkey mind out of the way, you're connecting, and it's at that point. And in fact, one of the things that's so fascinating is that in the UK, for example, in mediumship circles, most mediumship circles in the UK, you're not even allowed to join a mediumship circle unless you've been sitting in meditation, specifically sitting in the power for 12 months straight.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's awesome to do that. And I'm like going on my second year of meditating, and I know I've communicated my spirit guides. I felt the heat and all that. But before, I never had anyone to talk to. I've been following you on your free tutorials that I find whenever I found them, focusing on shapes and my mind's eye and seeing things. And I'm really good at that.
Good, good. Yeah, that's the thing. And then it just sort of it takes practice, takes time, and like I said before, spirit guides are not going to come over the head and take a hammer over her head and say, "Pay attention to me." That's not the way they operate. It's we're expecting like a lightning bolt. They don't do
Right.
that. They don't give us a
I
lightning bolt.
remember, I remember the one day recently, I was being a little bit of a smart aleck with one of mine, that it's a little hard to explain because he wasn't an average person in life. He was a celebrity. So I was being kind of a smart ass, and I had taken my dog to the park. And earlier in the day, I had said, okay, I want a sign that you're here and I want a musical note, right? So I take my dog to the park. We do our thing, and I get back into the car, and I need to go make a turn to turn around. And as I pull into this school parking lot, in front of me is a school, is like a trailer, and it said Nutley High School band with a musical note, like a big musical note on this trailer. And I literally just stopped, and I was like, I gasped out loud, and I was like, all right, all right, all right. Like it couldn't have just been a tiny musical note. It was like as if he was saying, is there anything else you want me to do? Like,
That's
like, what
awesome.
is it? I mean, I thought I was being so smug and so smart, and it was almost as if he got the last laugh. It
Oh,
was
they
just
usually
like,
do.
That's
That's
good.
the great thing. They will always have the last laugh because we think we're all high and mighty.
yeah,
It's our
yeah,
in our ego mind, we're like, you can't top us. And then
right.
spirit is always their sense of humor is always so great. Every time I do a reading, their sense of humor is hysterical. I'm just shaking my head at what they say, what they do, how they do it. I'm just like, oh wow. So it's absolutely great. Yeah. So. One of the things that I'm always letting people know is also just have fun with your guides and let loose. Don't take it so seriously that it's like, oh God, I've got to connect with my guides. Oh, because that's the last thing they want. They want as much fun as you do because they're here to not only keep you on your path with your soul contract, so that you're continuing to lead the life and get the experiences that you were trying to get all signed up when you created your contract, but they're also there to enjoy their experience and have you enjoy your experience in life. That's what it's all about. What's so amazing is that they will uh, in your in each lifetime because they follow us in each successive lifetime. That people think, oh, it's just that's my guide for this life. No, they've been with you many lifetimes, and as you grow with your spiritual growth, the more that you grow, the more they grow. So they have a vested interest in your spiritual success because they, even within the spirit guide community, if you will, there are different levels of spirit guides. And, let's say level 1 spirit guide has a level 2 supervisor. That level 2 supervisor has a level 3 supervisor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It just keeps on going up all the way up, right? So depending on who you have, they've got a supervisor as well. So they're always growing. That's their whole task. Is that the more you grow, the more they grow. So allow them to teach you, allow them to help you grow because they want to see you grow. That's their whole reason for doing this, which I just find fascinating. It's all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, you mean it's not just you're not doing this just because you're just a great person. So yeah, it is fascinating. I mean, it's the world of spirit guides is amazing. Have you ever read? There's a well-known book, Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss.
Yes, I have it. Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Don? You read that book?
Oh no, I don't read as that much.
Oh, definitely read that book. You'll love it. It's by a kind of a world-renowned um, psychiatrist, very grounded in the scientific method, never believed in the metaphysical world unless he could prove it. And, you know, he's kind of like the typical scientist. He's like, you know, it doesn't exist kind of stuff, until he wound up stumbling upon all this down the road with one of his patients. And he kind of went down the rabbit hole in his scientific investigations, and he was just absolutely floored by what he discovered. And this whole book was about this one patient. It's crazy. Also,
Okay.
take a look on my website. You'll see in the resources section there's a reading list. On that reading list is like this whole two or three page list of like these great books, and a
Okay,
lot
I
of them
think
are
I
like,
did see that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So definitely go in there and, you know, start reading the things that grab you. You'll enjoy
Okay,
this. You'll definitely enjoy
definitely.
this.
I've been enjoying reading a lot of things in there.
Yeah, yeah. So go to that reading list, and definitely one of them is "Many Lives, Many Masters" by Brian Weiss. You'll enjoy that one. I always go back to that. I'm just like, oh, this is so cool, because you're
Well,
basically you're living it, because most of it is like the transcripts of what comes through in the regression therapy, and you're just like, I mean, spirit guides come through, um, 98 different lives come through. It's just like, oh my God. And
wow.
and what's also so cool is that this patient, as she goes through these different lives, uh, starts to identify the people who are in her current life in her prior lives as well,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
goes back to the whole theory that we do travel in spirit family. We are in our soul group. We all travel in soul groups constantly, over and over
Well,
and over again. And
Yeah.
that's literally what she was talking about when she was under hypnosis. And you're just like, wow. And there's so many times this gets shown.
okay, I think I'll need to read that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah, I think you'll enjoy
I
it.
have to reread it. Yeah, I have it. I have to reread it.
Yeah, it is so fascinating. Well, super. This was a lot of fun, guys. You have any questions that I can try to answer for you? This is certainly a fun one.
I have a quick one,
Yeah.
Chris. When you first start this journey, um, I don't know if anybody else experiences this, but the one that I'm currently getting to know, um, do they, can you become emotional? Like, can it be an emotional experience?
When you're first going through your spiritual
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
Okay.
your ego mind is grappling with something that it's not used to. And your ego mind, like we all know, our ego minds want control, because that's
Right.
what they're designed to do. They're designed to protect us from the outside world. That's how the ego mind was created. Oh, you know, when we were like 6 months old, all of a sudden we realized, hey, wow, that's a big, scary world out there. We've got to find a way to protect ourselves. So then the ego mind started to form to protect that barrier.
Yeah.
So it's a
Okay.
protective barrier. And the more it this creates a sense of separation and control for itself, the more protected it feels and that we feel. So there's this bigger and bigger barrier. So
Yeah.
when all of a sudden we start to realize and feel that, hey, there is no barrier, there is no separation, everything is unity and a singularity, and we're all one, your ego mind can't handle that. And you're like,
Right.
wow, what am I doing? Your whole perspective is literally flipped upside down 180 degrees. It's like up is down, black is white, left is right, right is left. You don't know what is going. You're backwards. And that's kind of why all of a sudden you feel this emotional flip flop, and you just another thing is also, as you become more sensitive to spirit, your sensitivity literally increases to everything at the drop of a hat. You know, I used to be this guy who was like really tough. Guys don't cry. Now I cry at the drop of a hat watching a
Yeah.
freaking TV series. I'm like, and guys go, oh, please. But it's just the fact that my sensitivity has increased. My psychic senses. I'm that much more tied in to the energy, and it's that fires me. So that's another reason why you may also get your emotions much more emotional.
Well, I'm
Right.
glad to hear that. I thought I was just a big crybaby.
No, 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 no,
Yeah,
no, no.
right?
In
It's
fact, if
crazy.
think about it this way, the percentage of women who are mediums vastly outnumbers the number of men who are mediums. Why is that? Well, there are two reasons. Number one, just looking at it biologically, women are typically controlled by the right hemisphere of the brain. Their right hemisphere is much more creative, much more open, much more able to handle duality and openness and connection. So they're able to be more open to different things, whereas guys are very logical. We can only hold one thought at a time. We can't
Right.
Right,
multitask, et
right.
cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But also, women are very sensitive by definition, very emotional, very sensitive, very empathetic, thoughtful, whereas guys just don't have that. We're hardwired the other way, which is why you've got that 95% of mediums are women or are men who identify as women or they're in many cases they're homosexual because they've got those sensitivities and they go that direction. So it's tremendous the way you start to look at it just biologically and you can cut it up. You're
Right,
like, there you go.
right. Okay. Okay.
Well,
So that's sorry, Dawn, you had a question.
yeah, my thing is, I got a question. Like, I went through like that life-changing thing where I thought I was going to die, and I'm here
Yeah,
for a
yeah.
reason. I'm here 30 years later, and I know I'm here for a reason. And back then, when I went through that, oh, I was very open to a lot of things. People would tell me, I would know things, I'd feel things, I'd say it out loud, and it would happen. And then I manifested everything in the world I wanted at one point. And then when I had it, I quit focusing and I quit doing it for like, I want to say 15 years. And that's when like I'm back in it again for the last 2 years and I'm having a hard time finding it again. I'm not having a hard time because I can really feel it, but it's just not connecting the way it used to connect.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. It's like if you're really into it and you're really kind of focusing on it, it's like a logarithmic acceleration. You'll see it take a long time to gather, but then once it gathers, it goes up exponentially. So it's like the law of compounding. You won't see any material difference for a really long time. It's like the law of compounding of like one penny. One penny
Right.
doubled is two pennies, is three pennies, is four pennies, whatever. And it's like you're not really seeing anything until that 29th day.
Yeah,
It literally explodes. You've got like $10 million. You're like, where'd that come from?
right,
So it's the
right.
same thing. It's the logarithmic or exponential curve. I forget which one of those things, but that's kind of going along. All of a sudden, it just asymptotically explodes. If that makes any sense.
It does.
Okay. Just going back to my ancient analytic methodology, which is ever present, ever present. Well, good. I'm glad this is helpful. Anything else that have shaken the trees that any apples are falling from the trees?
No, I just can't wait for the next meeting. I mean, I was looking forward to this. So it, for me, it's great to have a community of people that get you, it's just a comfort. This is a great experience. But like I said to Chris earlier, you feel a little crazy, um, because you know what you're going through. But the people closest to you, as much as they want to, say, "Hey, I'm with you," people look at you like, "Oh, that's kind of sad," it's like, she's really lost it now. And it's like
Yeah,
you sit there
exactly.
and you go, and you're the one, on your way to work, driving into work, and you're having this full-blown conversation with somebody that to the outside world nobody can see, and yet you're just it's like, oh my God, maybe I am crazy.
Right.
So it's good to hear that you're not.
Exactly. It's like the old saying. It's like, am I crazy or am I connecting with spirit?
Right.
Famous $24,000 question. So yeah, that's actually one of my. I'm trying to get a TEDx talk, and that's the subject of my talk. So we'll see where that goes. That'd be fun. Well, great. And have you found the access to the membership material easy to get? You found that good?
I seem to be maneuvering it pretty well. I was away from it for a few days, but back at it a little bit today.
All right, but it's easy to get to.
Yeah, it's easy to get to. I've no problem.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I know in the very beginning when we were first trying to get this thing ramped, Cold Peel were having issues getting access to it, and I kind of made a couple of tweaks. I'm like, okay, now it should be pretty good.
Chris, are we allowed to schedule like a service with you, even though you're like our teacher? Like if I wanted to schedule a session,
Yeah,
is
sure.
that okay to do that? Or
Yeah.
do you recommend, separating the two? Like you're my teacher now, maybe we hold off or,
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend perhaps holding off, but I mean, if you feel strongly that you really got to do something, I mean, I'm
yeah,
not going to say no, but
okay,
just walk into it more aware than perhaps you might otherwise be
okay, okay,
because of
got
that.
it.
I don't want to say student-teacher relationship, but because there is that slight mentorship approach,
Right. Yeah.
and you do know a lot of stuff. I mean, at some point, if you feel compelled, by all means, we can try to arrange something. But
Okay.
it's up to you. Besides, I mean, I'm booked out till like March anyway, so
Okay. All right. Got it.
that'll
Got
give
it.
you a lot of time to think. Awesome. Well, hey, this was super fantastic. I'm so glad you guys were here. I appreciate you and can't wait to connect with you next time. If you got any questions, by all means, just drop me a note or email or post it or however you want to do it. It's all there. So
Thanks a lot, Chris. I appreciate it.
my pleasure. Dawn, Rhea,
Definitely.
everything. It was great seeing you.
Oh, thank you for your
Thank you.
time. See you
Thanks for
next
your
month.
time, Chris.
Yeah. Okay. See you
Bye-bye.
next time. Bye bye.